David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. All right, so I'm sitting here in an N. Peel shirt reminiscent of one that you would see Timothy Dalton in Living Daylights. For a particular reason, I'm here to talk about Timothy Dalton, and you're like, hold on a second. What? I mean, aren't you the Daniel Craig, Sean Connery guy? Yes, but the reason I wanted to talk about Timothy Dalton today is because Timothy Dalton is a grower, not a shower. No. I have not seen him in a locker room. What I'm talking about is over time, as I go into my 50s, for example, the Timothy Dalton movies have grown on me. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. First of all, I know it's because a lot of my good friends out there have always been Timothy Dalton fans. They've been fans of the movies, and not just Living Daylights, but also License to Kill as well. And for good reason. I mean, they say, look, it is such a great connection, these particular films and Timothy Dalton's, the way he represents Bond, to how Fleming wrote him. It's got that hard edge, but he still is loving life. He's still having fun. He's got those little moments, but he's always on the edge, not just with what's going around him, not just with the villains and the good guys, but with his own turmoil, way before Daniel Craig adopted that kind of turmoil approach to James Bond. And Timothy Dalton did it with an incredible amount of panache and with class. Hard to argue that. I can't argue that. I can't really butt heads with people that say that because all of that is true. I have gone back and rewatched the Dalton films. And believe me, there was a time when License to Kill just wasn't something that really connected with me. I thought, and still do, that it looks a little bit like an 80s action movie. It looks like Lethal Weapon, insert James Bond. But I'm appreciating what Timothy Dalton specifically, as an individual Bond, brings to the role. And if I'm being honest, the actor who plays James Bond is so vital, so paramount to my enjoyment of these films. I mean, think about it. You know, there have been films that are good Bond films, but if the actor is superlative, it just raises it all. I'll give you a perfect example. Die Another Day, I don't know if anybody could punch their weight saying that it's a great Bond film or the best Bond film. There may be one or two of you out there, Lorenzo, but I would say this, the fun factor, the watchability of that movie has a lot to do with Pierce Brosnan because he's very watchable and I love his portrayal as James Bond. It's become the same way with Timothy Dalton in these films. License to Kill for me doesn't look great. The story is, it's kind of standard of that time. But Timothy Dalton, he just brings such this badass edginess to it. That's what I'm looking for. I've told you this before. It's why No Time to Die, parts of it didn't connect with me is because I wanted that badass Bond moment consistently throughout. Timothy Dalton never stops flying the flag of being badass Bond. He looks dangerous. And I think a part of that has translated because even Timothy Dalton, the person now, people are always a little nervous, like, I saw him on the street, but I didn't want to approach him. Well, why is that? It's not like he throws fists at paparazzi or he's got a reputation of being a negative individual. It's because he's portrayed a hard-edged, dangerous weapon. Take Living Daylights for a moment. And again, this has become so much higher in the ranking for me. A big part of it is Timothy Dalton because he took, arguably, if you read some of the background history, a movie that was essentially written around Roger Moore, right? It was going to be Roger Moore's continuation after A View to a Kill. And he took it and he brought this edginess to it. Now they tweaked it, of course, for the individual and, requests. But the reality is this is a fun movie that has all of a sudden this wonderful crustiness to it. Is that the right word? Grittiness. Better. It has a grittiness to it that I think Timothy Dalton is able to bring to the role. Think about, the moments with some of the bad guys, or some of the lifestyle moments that he brings. He still looks like he's enjoying himself. Is the clothing something I'm going to write home to mom about? No. I mean, I like this piece. But I'm talking about the living lifestyle moments. He seems, and I've talked about this before, he seems like Fleming's portrayal come to life of knowing that he could be having death for breakfast. So what does he have for dinner the night before? He has Harrods. He has foie gras. He overspends the MI6 expenditure. I mean, I love that moment in the safe house when he does that. And that, to me, is what Timothy Dalton brings to that table. And yet, he's also able to serve up the fun factor. The gadgets, for example, in the Vantage, in the car, totally sells it. The optional extras, I mean, that glare that he gives when he's talking. And yes, even in a cello case, somehow he sells it. Because you're watching this machismo Bond, who is just connected to this situation, seems like a spy, seems like an assassin, seems dangerous. I mean, the whole thing with Pushkin, I mean, my gosh, it just pushes the story forward. And that's the other thing. The Dalton films, the reason they've grown on me as well, and I have to mention this, beyond Timothy Dalton, the stories are solid. This one in particular, Living Daylights, I've heralded as a great story that grips you with the locations, with the moments, with the consequences of pushing it forward, with Bond having heroic moments. And I tell you, I've watched this maybe about 6 months ago. When I stopped watching it, I got up, I made myself a martini, and somehow my shoulders pulled back as I walked around the house. I got into my car. Everything was back. I had a heroic standpoint. These are the things that I look for in a Bond film. This is the after effects, the consequences, the side effects, if I could use a medical jargon, of watching a Bond film. I want to feel larger than life. I want to feel inspired, feel heroic. Tim Dalton, in these movies, he does that. It's a celebratory moment. I get it. There might be a psychological thing going on here that I have to admit. I've rewatched these movies after No Time to Die, where I've said this, great film, not going to argue that, but it's not a film where you're like walking down the streets going, you're kind of like, right. I mean, it's a bummer. It's a bummer of a film, purposely done like that, different take on it. I get it. But me, I want to release myself. I want to escape. I got some stresses coming my way. What am I going to go for? You know something? I'm going to start going more for Tim Dalton in making me escape, showing me this badass Bond, great stories, great bad guys, some amazing Bond girls, wonderful teammates that surround him, some very personal moments that he brings to the table. Yeah, guys, gals, whoever's been on the Tim Dalton bandwagon all these years, I doff my hat to you. And some apologies. Where I've talked about this is like, oh, those movies, I'm not going to anymore. I've embraced the Tim Dalton movies. Listen to me, all getting familiar. Timothy Dalton movies. And I'd love to know if you have as well. In the comments below, let me know. Timothy Dalton fan? And if so, which one? Or both? Love to hear from you. Anyway, small rant. Just want to let you know, hey, I'm evolving. This is what the Bond community is all about. Growth. David Zaritsky from the Bond Experience. We'll see you all real soon. Take care. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond Experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.